moment to mute yourself. And greetings to everybody who's here on Zoom, on TOS Live and Facebook Live. It is great to be together this Shabbat, the Rosh Hashanah. You may have noticed I'm in a different background tonight and that I look a little bit like a giant. That is just an illusion. I'm not quite as tall as I look in this shot. And I hopefully am done growing. But it is great to be together and to celebrate Shabbat. We'll have a chance to pray, to learn, and to begin that process of introspection and reflection of doing cheshbon hanefesh, the accounting of our soul, as we head into the Jewish New Year, which begins on Monday night. If you have Shabbat candles and you'd like to join me in lighting them, we're going to begin on page 2. Oh, learning a couple of things about my setup. We're going to begin on page 2. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlikne shel Shabbat. Continue to bring in Shabbat together with Shalom Aleichem, which is on page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashavet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. It's a transition to be back at home this week after being together in person, both outdoors and in our chapel, and getting to hear those voices. And one of the things I love about being on Zoom is the freedom to sing as if nobody's listening. And while you are listening to me, nobody else except maybe your housemates or your dogs is going to hear you tonight. So I invite you to really let it out and enjoy yourself, to bring the joy of singing into your life and into the space, whatever your natural talents might be. We bring that joy to Psalm 96, which can be found on page 13 in our prayer book. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru Miyom Leyom, Yeshuato, Sapru Vagoyim, Kevodo Bechol Ha'amim Niflotav, Ki Gadol Adonai, Hulal Meyod, Norahu, Al Ko Elohim, Kiko Elohe Ha'amim Elelim, Va'adon Adonai Shamayim Asa Hod V'Hadar Lefanav Oz V'Tiferet B'Mikdasho Yadai 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 yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, da, da, da. Yeah, da, da, da. We turn to Lachado D on page 20. And in the second stanza, it talks about Shabbat being a fountain of blessing, something that will continue to give blessing continually throughout the ages. And that idea of a source of blessing, a fountain of blessing, has been sitting with me, and I'll share more about how that is showing up in my life and in our calendar right now later on. But as we sink into this Shabbat with deep breaths and with song, let's try to experience that source of blessing that replenishes us each week with rest, with food, with song, and with joy. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet b'litila. Lechadodi likrat kala. P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechuvenelcha, ki mekor haberacha, me rosh mikedem nisucha, sof ma'aseh v'makshavat chila. Lechadodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, kiva ore kumiori, uri shir daberi, kevod Adonai alaik nikla. Lechadodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzohala, toch emunei am segula, Boi chala, lechadodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. We read together on page 23, Psalm 93, which is a psalm for Shabbat. Adonai is sovereign, God is robed in grandeur. Adonai is robed, God is girded with strength. The world stands firm, it cannot be shaken. Your throne stands firm from of old. From eternity you have existed. The ocean sounds Adonai, the ocean sounds its thunder. The ocean sounds its pounding above the thunder of the mighty waters, more majestic than the breakers of the sea. is Adonai, majestic on high. Your decrees are indeed enduring. Holiness befits your house, Adonai, for all times. Chatzi Kaddish is on page 26. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yamad divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye echon u'vyom echon, u'chaye decho beit Yisrael, ba'agala ba'agala, u'bizman kariv, v'imeru, amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach, le'alam u'lamei amaya, yitbarach, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei d'kudusha b'rechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'yama, v'imeru, amen. We turn to the Baruch Hu, the call to worship, and I invite you to rise in body or spirit and to unmute yourselves in joining me in this call and response. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. We're welcome to be seated. We give thanks for bringing on this evening hour, the Ma'ariv Aravim blessing on page 31. Please join me at the bottom of the page. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us, shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. As we turn to page 32 in Ahavat Olam, just want to share a few words. I usually focus on the love aspect of Ahavat Olam and the great love that God brings into our world. But it's specifically a love that is brought down through Torah. And in the morning and in the evening, when we say these corresponding blessings, it is about love through Torah. And that has been showing up for me this week in response to the Texas abortion bill. And I don't want to speak extensively on it tonight. If you want to understand Judaism's position and the Reform movement's position, you can check out the Facebook page for Ohabei Shalom, or you can check out my Facebook page. I posted a couple of articles and an excerpt from a book from some classmates and friends. But Judaism and thousands of years of our tradition stand overwhelmingly on the side of choice and of honoring the rights of the mother. And I just want to uphold that tonight, because that's a way that God's love shows up in our world through our Torah and through our tradition. And that is what I'm holding in my heart tonight as we sing this blessing on page 32. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu V'shokbeinu v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu Vahem negei yomam v'layla yomam v'layla V'avatcha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech U'shochbecha uvkumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Leman tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem, Me'eretz Mitzrayim, v'hiyot lachem le'elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. We turn together to Michamocha on page 40 to sing the song of our redemption of our ancestors. And we hope to experience a little spark, a little bit of that redemption ourselves this Shabbat. And that sense of blessing, that source of blessing returning to us, that little bit of life, that little bit of joy that we may have lost this week. Micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha ba'elim Adonai. Mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot, osei felen nora tehilot, osei felen. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe Miriam, ze'eli anu ve'amru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar, kifada Adonai et Yaakov, u'ga'alo miyad chazak mimenu, baruch ata Adonai, gal Yisrael. We ask for protection. We ask for peace over our homes and our communities, over Israel and Jerusalem and the whole world. Please join me if you're following along in the prayer book at the bottom of page 43. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth, for with you are true protection and safety. And in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace and all that we love over Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. As we turn to the Amidah on page 46, I invite you to rise in body or spirit. We'll take our time working through these blessings. And you may notice that when I lead, I like to do as much of this as I can. And so you're going to have a lot of time for silent prayer and explore the prayer book, explore the English or the Hebrew, or take the time to just breathe and be quiet, to offer your own prayers for peace in this world, your own prayers of gratitude, and your own prayers for those you love. We begin on page 46. Adonai Sifatai Tiftachu Fi Yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Geula Libnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol Atah Rav Le'Hoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah L'Hachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim V'Chol Yom Yhalelucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. As we complete our prayers, we join together for a prayer for peace. Ohabei Shalom on page 62. Ohabei Shalom Bimroma, Uya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Ve'imru Amen. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Take a moment tonight to offer a prayer for healing for those in our community. If you're saying Misha Berach, we'll be on page 253. And I welcome you to add names into the chat of loved ones that you'd like to be read out loud. And I'd like to share names from our community that we are praying for healing for tonight. Allison Rim, Miriam Rivka Bat Ephraim Yehudit, Linda Grossman, Cameron Lopez, Betty Vinacor, Claire Rufino, Julia Hum, Elia Garza, Valerie, Gail Broly Evans, Cassandra Warshawski, Chaya Blaima Bat Chaim Chia Vasilia Ruchel, Jeffrey Colt, Laserberger, Seville Pakalioglu. We add to those names the names of Liesel, Marcia, Alan, Susan, Jerry, Roger, Steve Frown, Mindy Malka Bat Yehudit Eliyahu. We think of Michelle's mom and Sarah's friend tonight as we pray this prayer of healing on page 253. Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Wish them a refuah shlema, a quick and speedy recovery. In my opinion, one of life's greatest truisms was best expressed by the boxer Mike Tyson before his fight with Evander Holyfield. When asked by a reporter if he was worried about Holyfield and his fight plan, Tyson answered, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." Extending this maxim beyond the world of boxing might seem overly violent or excessive, but if you allow for a bit of hyperbole, I believe it applies quite well. We wake up ready to tackle the day, to get to work early and answer our emails, to answer all our calls and to start a big project. And then on our way out the door, we spill coffee all over our suit. Or we decide to improve our health by giving up sugar and carbs, only to find out it is our coworker's birthday and there's free cake in the lunchroom. We make a plan to travel abroad during the pandemic, and then the Delta variant shows up. Now, these might not sound as bad as getting punched in the mouth by Mike Tyson. Very few things do. But life throws us curveballs every day, every year, and especially this year. This year, the question that I am sitting with is, how do we respond? How do we show up in the moments and months after our plans have been thwarted? As we approach Rosh Hashanah and the start of the Jewish New Year on Monday, we might want to look back to where we were a year ago, or we may not at all, but stay with me for a second. Perhaps we want to look back. What were our plans for 5781? What were the obstacles that we met along the way? And how have we managed to adapt? I will say that I do not think that this is the year for self-flagellation. It has not been an easy year for anybody on any level, and many of our plans have not come to fruition. We have all fallen short of our expectations in some way. But that does not mean that there isn't room for introspection and reflection. I just encourage you to do it with curiosity and with as little self-judgment as possible. When we faced an obstacle this last year, how did we respond? With anger, with sadness, with creativity or partnership, or with some combination of all of these and others? What can we learn about ourselves and how we react when we are proverbially punched in the mouth that we can take into this next year? Because pandemic or not, we are going to continue to face obstacles. Mike Tyson's words were a distillation of a quote from the 19th century Prussian military commander Helmuth von Moltke. He said, "No plan of operation reaches with any certainty beyond the first encounter with the enemy's main force." Or as it is often quoted, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." It doesn't matter if that enemy is bad luck or a global pandemic or our own Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination within. We will be forced to adapt, pivot, and go off script when these obstacles show up. However, I do not believe that we are alone in this work. We have each other. We have our friends, communities, and partners, and we have our connection to the source of life and blessing. No matter where we are, no matter what we chased after this year, or however many times it feels we've been knocked down, there is a great communal movement back to the source of life and blessing at this very moment. Like a vast network of streams and rivers, we only have to step into the water to become a part of this current, returning us to the source. It does help to swim a little bit along the way, but just by being a part of this great collective movement, we are carried along in the stream of our friends, our community, Jews around the world, our ancestors who came before us, and our descendants who will follow after us. This is Teshuvah, the process of return. And this week's Torah portion, Nitzavim, reminds us over and over again that this is what we need to do in this moment. 7 times the root shuv, or turning, shows up in chapter 30 of Deuteronomy. When all of these things befall you, the blessing and the curse that I set before you, and you return to your heart amidst the various nations to which the Lord your God has banished you, and you return to the Lord your God, and you and your children hear his command with all your heart and soul, just as I enjoin you upon this today. Then the Lord your God will return your fortunes and take you back in love. He will return and gather you again from all the peoples where the Lord your God has scattered you. Even if your outcasts are at the ends of the world, from there the Lord your God will gather you. From there she will fetch you. You, however, will return and hear the voice of God and do all her commandments that I enjoin upon you this day. And the Lord your God will grant you abounding prosperity in all your undertakings, in the issue of your womb, the offspring of your cattle, and the produce of your soil. For the Lord your God will return and delight in your well-being, as he did in that of your fathers, since you will be listening to the Lord your God and keeping her commandments and laws that are recorded in this Torah. Once you return, the Lord your God, with all your heart and soul. You may have noticed that in this extended selection from chapter 30, that the idea of returning in Torah is mutual, an act that both we undertake and that God undertakes. In chapter 30, it's actually a beautiful 2-2-1-1-1 structure. It's a dance that goes back and forth. Some of you may have read my message this morning in our newsletter, and if you haven't, I encourage you to read it as an addendum to tonight's Devar Torah, because I truly believe that we are all always welcome back, and that when we turn back, we will be greeted with love. Whatever obstacles we have faced, whatever challenges we will face, We just need to learn how to respond better. And then the process of return becomes more natural. We join that stream and we swim along with it, and we pull other people along with us. My prayer for us this Shabbat as we head into Rosh Hashanah is that we allow ourselves to become a part of the current, a part of this process of teshuvah, of return back to the source of life and of blessing. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to move to the conclusion of our service with Aleinu on page 282 and on 287. If you'd like to rise, we rise in body or spirit. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol v'ateit gedula liotzer b'reshit shehu notei shamayim v'yosed haaretz u'moshav yikaroho b'shamayim mima'al u'shchinatu zo b'govhei meromim hu Eloheinu enod v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'nemar V'haya Adonai L'melech al kol ha'aretz Bayom hahu Yeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad. We honor our loved ones that we have lost in recent days and in years past by saying Kiddush Atom, the mourner's Kaddish. As a community tonight, we actually have nobody that we're saying Kaddish for, but if you're saying Kaddish for a loved one, please share their name with us in the chat. And you can see on the screen the list of yard sites and those that we honor this evening. And thank you, Larry. Yes, we hold in our hearts Zachary Lipoff, the son of Rabbi Emily Lipoff, Norma Pearl Weber, and Luz Maria Salamanca, Alan Stark.
And my mother, Goldie Kaplan.
Thank you, Hugh. We turn to Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 294, and we rise if it's our custom. And thank you. We add the name of Peter Feldman, the beloved son of Saul and Doris.
And Rabbi, could we please add Betsy Gould? It's the 12th yard site.
Oh, thank you, Spence.
Thank you so much. Sorry I couldn't get on before.
It's okay. And Tibor Balish, Eva's uncle. To all those mentioned tonight and to all those on our hearts, we join together for Mourner's Kaddish, page 294.
Mute ourselves.
Yit Kadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabba, V'yalma, Divrach, Yirutei, V'yamlich, Malchutei, V'chayechon, U'vyomechon, U'chayei, T'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, U'vizman, Kariv, V'yimru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba B'varach Olam Olam Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmeid Kudsha B'richu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiran V'yama V'yimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya Chayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru
Amen.
Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We're welcome to be seated. There are many, many announcements. Mostly, the best thing to do is just go to your newsletter or go to our website to find all the many things that are happening for Rosh Hashanah. And for Yom Kippur, I just want to share a brief overview. And if you have questions, we can chat about it after Zoom. We're going to kick things off on Monday night with a brief Erev Rosh Hashanah service that is on Zoom, to be followed by a communal Rosh Hashanah Seder. And if you saw the list of symbolic foods and you want to pick them up, please enjoy them at home. You can eat them or you can just point to them, and we'll have them with us on the screen. It'll be a chance to sink into the holiday and to share and connect with each other. The next morning, we have Tot services that begin at 9 a.m. outside and also will be streamed. Everything will be streamed. At 10 a.m. are communal services in the sanctuary, and they will also be streamed outside to a tent in our parking lot. So if you'd like to enjoy the service close to the building but not in the building, that is an option, and those will be available online as well as on Brookline Public TV. At 3 o'clock is our family service, which will be outdoors in the parking lot. And at 4:15, we are going to depart from the synagogue to the Muddy River to do Tashlich. And you're welcome to join us either to walk down to the Muddy River or to meet us down there. We will hopefully arrive by 4:30. And on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, we will have 2 learning sessions on Zoom. I will be teaching on the God of Hagar and Ishmael, and Rabbi Berkman will be teaching about the poetry of the Akedah. We're asking that everybody who comes into the building who is eligible to be vaccinated, and that everybody wear a mask to keep us all safe. And we're asking that everybody register in advance to help us facilitate an easy process that day. So if you haven't RSVP'd, please go online. I believe the link is in the chat, and you can do that ahead of time. And then you'll have plenty of time to hear about what's happening for Yom Kippur as well. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you to Sherry for juggling so many responsibilities. Who knew that you could run tech as well? We're going to conclude with Kiddush and Adon Olam. Kiddush can be found on page 5 in your prayer book. You're welcome to rise and join me in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho b'havadu ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahavat uvratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. We're going to conclude this evening with Adon Olam, which can be found on page 321. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'et nasa b'chefso kol Azai melech shemo nikra, v'acharei kichlot hakol, levado yimloch nora, v'hu haya v'hu hoveh, v'hu yiyeh v'tifara, v'hu echad v'ein sheni, lehamshil lo lehachbira, Beli reshit, beli tachlit, belo haoz v'hamisra, v'hu eli, v'chai goali, v'tzur chevli, v'etzara, v'hu nisi umanos li, v'nat kosi, b'yom ekra, b'yado, afkid ruchi, B'eti shan v'ayira, Ve'im ruchi geviati Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to turn off our live stream.